Thomas, today's moderator, and today we are going to talk about artificial intelligence. We talked about it yesterday, and because of some reasons, we had left some questions. To help us with that, we have Sir Aju John Varghese today with here. So let's welcome him. Hello, sir.
Hello.
Yeah, so we talked about it AI. We had a summary of what AI is yesterday. So could you go over it again a little bit?
Yeah. So yesterday we were talking about AI in the context of speaking to some of the school students, and we tried to explain to them what is AI in a nutshell. And then we were also wanting to continue that discussion. For example, in today's topic, it is given as what are some of the threats. So, if you look at the reality of how things go about, 20 years back when computers was introduced, especially in government circles, I know this specifically because both my parents were working in the government. My father was working with the Reserve Bank of India, and my mother was working with the BSNL, or at that time it was called the Department of Telecommunications. So 20 years back, they started computerization, and then at that time, it was seen as a threat, or it was perceived as a threat by many people. And in fact, many people protested against introduction of computers. The At that time, what they had told was, if computers come, it might replace some of the jobs. So there is this question that with the proliferation of AI being introduced, will it have a negative impact as the jobs are concerned? Fact of the matter is, yes. What is the reason for that? The reason is that companies are going to pursue uh, the profit motive. Their primary motive is profit motive. Reason being, companies are nowadays listed in the stock market. They have to keep showing a good performance every term after term. Okay, so you would know that in the stock market, every term you have to show your results, and therefore to show better results, what they will have to look at it, they'll have to look at how operational efficiency can be increased. And sometimes what happens is operational efficiency, while they are introducing AI to get more efficient, they will have to cut down some of the heads. Okay, and some of the heads, or some of the people who might be first retrenched, would be people whose jobs can be easily replaced by AI. So this aspect is always there. There is this fear of many jobs being replaced, and companies looking at AI to replace some of those jobs without human intervention. So this is one of the real risks that companies are or individuals are going to face. But how and when it is going to happen, and in which parts of the world it is going to happen, will differ. But let us now start with the questions, because we have this is actually the third session that we are going to have about AI. So therefore, if we can start with the questions, and I will try to address those questions.
Okay, sure. So you just talked about it, the AI in the businesses or in the companies. So I have a question here. Can AI improve customer services? It's a question from Shivani.
Okay. So if you look at Amazon, for example, Amazon, they have, if you want to directly chat with them, or if you want to directly call them, it's now not so easy. Okay. So suppose you are having a particular order in which you are having a query. First, you have the option of, you'll have to choose that. You have to go to customer service. You'll have to choose that order, and then there are few questions that come from the menu. So basically, this is something called a operationalizing a bot. A bot is going to auto answer based on a preset set of parameters. So this is already if you look at any customer facing organization, it already has a chat bot which is going to help a customer navigate through some of the preset options. And finally, it might reach a stage where are you satisfied with these set of answers? And then if you are not, then only it will go for human intervention. So already, if you look at any customer facing companies, they have already introduced some of the AI in one form or the other in customer service.
Yes. Okay. Okay. We have another question here. Can AI feel emotions like happiness or sadness?
As of now, they are trying to the scientists are trying to make AI mimic human emotions. As of now, it's not able to feel. Okay, because emotion is a very complex process whereby a soul is involved. Emotion is involved only if a soul is involved, and that soul should feel either happiness or joy. And there is so many other hormones involved, so many other human elements involved. So all these things have to be artificially created in an AI for it to feel joy or some of these emotions. So what scientists try to do is to build a scenario. Okay, so when they train the AI, so I think you already we have already covered the aspect of training AI with real world scenarios. That's how the AI develops its capabilities. So in one of the training sessions that they have, it is about trying to. So this is not done for all types of AI. This is done to type of AI where they want to see how AI is able to mimic human emotions. So in such specific cases, they try to build the scenarios. They try to give examples and try to show how humans behave in such scenarios. So if there is a scenario that is given that a person is passing away from their a relative is passing away, what are the options that are available? And for each of the options, for example, one of the option is abject silence. The person is not even responding. The other silence is the person is just crying. Okay, and the third option is the person is not able to console himself or herself. So there are multiple responses that are possible for a relative, for a close relative. And then each of these responses are fed into the AI, and then it tries to mimic the human emotions. But this is normally not needed for a normal AI like the Chat GPT or some of the things that the tools that we use. This is specifically needed for AI that they deploy in Androids. Okay, so if you would know already in some of the places in the world, especially in China and all, they have deployed Androids. Androids will have a AI as AI will be the software which will drive the Android. And for these Android, so that people feel that the Android is more human in intervention. So they have done it in China, they have tried it in Japan, trying to inject human emotions to androids. Okay, so that when people deal with these androids, when they encounter these androids, they will feel that because physically they'll try to make it more humanoid. That's why they instead of android they'll just now call humanoid, because the person or that machine looks like a human, or they give that features, they give that human features to the, but then they try to supplement it with human emotions. So the AI that drives these androids or humanoids, they try to inject or train that AI so that humans can, or these androids can try to mimic human emotions to the extent possible. But this is at a very nascent stage. And for example, in India, places like India and all, this is not something that is explored at all because people don't have that kind of an affinity. But countries like China, countries like Japan, which have been using live robots for a very long time now, and now they are graduating to humanoid robots. In such cases, this would be more applicable. Next question.
Okay. Before next question, I have one question, my personal own question. You just said that AI can express happiness or sadness with certain bots, but is it okay for AI to express these emotions? Because in a daily life, if a person who is an introvert and he finds this AI or this bot and he is attached to it, he will get more introverted by it, isn't it? And he won't be sociable with the other peoples, right? So
Yeah,
it's dangerous, isn't it?
yeah, correct. I agree to it. See, what happens is that even if you look at there is something called games. I think people will be able to relate very much to computer games. Computer games, many times, what they do is that they build their own universes. So they have their own universe. For example, you might have heard of something called multiverse. That is something which
Mm,
is uh, artificially made, where a person can go into a game, he can go into universes, he can navigate. There will be a game replica. He can replicate himself into the game. Okay, and uh, that animated version of his or her can go to various universes, various places. You might have seen games like that. And in while people are using some of these games, what has happened is that people have withdrawn from the society. For them, society is very virtual. So it's a something you might have heard of virtual reality, right? So the virtual world becomes the reality, and they don't they don't interact so much with the people around them, and they
mm,
hesitate to interact. So many times it happens that way. Many of those people who are socially awkward, there are people like that who hesitate, who are little bit introverted. Many times they feel that they are socially awkward. They are not outward looking. They are not very extroverts, and for them, they find comfort in having a virtual world where a self, virtual version of themselves can freely express themselves, which they cannot do in the normal world. What happens to it goes to an extent that they become so comfortable with that world that they don't want to interact with the real world. So this has happened, but not to many people, but it has happened. There are people who do it. There are who relegate themselves to some of these things, and they don't interact too much in the social spheres. But therefore, but whether it is a pandemic, whether there is a possibility of this kind of a situation happening to so many people, it might not be the case, because in places like India or the developing nations, where people have to earn their living, they have to go out, and they don't have social security to support them. This might not be the case, but in places where there are some of these systems in place to support someone who might even be willing to spend this much time and energy behind in a virtual world, that those are the places, maybe in Europe and maybe in US and some of these advanced countries have that, which have that kind of a social security support, where you will find some of these things happening. But there is a real
okay.
danger of such things happening.
Yeah. The next question is related to the one you just told me. Can AI be my best friend? It's this question is actually so cute.
Mm.
Can AI
Uh,
be my best friend?
See, AI could try to become or try to mimic, it can try to mimic as your best friend. But the danger in that is that the AI, an artificial intelligence can all see who is a real friend, who is a good friend. A good friend is somebody who can be there for you and who might tell you the truth to the face. Okay. See, sometimes what happens is truth might not always sound good, especially if we are on the wrong path and somebody is trying to correct us, and they have to tell us the truth, which is going to hit back at us or make us angry. Is still a friend will go ahead with it, and in spite of whatever we might feel bad against that out in terms of an outburst, Still, a good friend will take that risk and tell us that we were wrong. But an artificial intelligence or which is posing as a friend might not do that. It might always be a yes person. It might not tell us that some, or it might not be even equipped to do that. That it might not be equipped well enough to evaluate a situation and to correct us as a very good friend might do. So an AI can try to be a good friend, but it might not be a good friend. So as of now, AI has not developed to that extent where you can trust it to be the only good friend who will be able to support you throughout various kinds of scenarios that you will go through. So as of now, you cannot trust AI to be your only best friend.
Okay, that is very satisfying answer. Yesterday, I was reading an article about the AI, artificial intelligence, and I came across a word, super AI. Is
Mhm.
it different with the normal AI?
See, normally uh, if you look at ChatGPT itself, okay, so and there is something which a normal person might encounter for the with the free version, but there is a paid version of each of these tools that are available, and there are some which are in an experimental stage which have not been released yet, okay, which has not been perfected yet. So some of these things are in the research stage yet, and they have not uh, so these are things which or AI which can do very advanced level of computing, very advanced level of reasoning, very advanced level of tool that they can incorporate into the repertoire, but they have not been perfected to such an extent that they can be safely released into normal human use. Okay, so this is still in the work in progress. For example, 10 years back, what we have right now might seem like super AI. Okay. So you can
Mhm.
imagine that 10 years later, what a normal person is going to get is already being experimented in some of the top secret labs in the world. And maybe it might not need 10 years, it might come to be of use in 5 years' time, but it is so much ahead of time. Okay, so the so in fact, Google's chief scientist, there was a uh, interview with him that was published, where he had told about some of the interactions that he had with the most advanced AI, which frightened him. Okay, he was just frightened with the capability that it had developed. It's almost like human. Okay, it was so almost like a duplicate human has already been a virtual human has already been created. Okay, so seeing those capabilities, they were afraid, but right now they are not in a position to because it is not yet perfected. There are many aspects of it. For example, some of the times it responds in a machine language. We are not able to understand. We are not able to understand how it processes some of these things. Okay, so very, very, it is very important that when an AI uses reasoning, the scientists or people who are controlling that AI as of now, they should be able to observe how the AI is going about in its reasoning. But what is happening is in some of these advanced AI, they are not able to see how it is reasoning out. Because what happens is it is they have observed that the AI has invented a new language to reason out to do that reasoning. Okay, and that language they are not able to recognize what is it that the AI is doing. That's a very dangerous thing. Okay, so the AI is giving an output, but the process they are not being able to arrive at what is the process that the AI has used. So it is the some of the lacunae in some of this advanced AI which they have to resolve it before they make it public.
Okay, so AI is uh, AI is really good if it is in the hand of a good people. But
Okay.
what if
Yeah. Yeah. Go ahead.
but
What
what
if?
but what if people's like terrorists have access to these super AIs and they use it for warfare?
Yeah. Actually, that's a real danger, and that is why recently we had the Paris summit, in which one of the reasons why you saw Macron, Modi, JD Vance, world leaders from across the world come and converge there to sign some things. Okay, the reason why they had all these world leaders converge there is because there was need for consensus. Because the way AI is developing, there is a need for. So actually, if you look at it, one of the things that they had released in that Paris summit was on safety, a handbook on safety of with the advent of advanced AI. But if you remember, there are two countries that didn't sign. China was not there. China was not officially present in that. US refused to sign. UK refused to sign. Okay. US refused to sign because they felt that they are in the cutting edge of AI advances and they didn't want it to be restricted because they didn't want Europe to restrict because this was more a Europe initiative on safety on AI. And then UK didn't sign because now they have exited the EU, and they if you know about the AI called Perplexity. Perplexity is a UK based. It is one of the major AI engines, AI firms, and therefore UK also didn't sign. So it is a indication that countries like US or UK feel that as far as warfare or some of these advanced technologies are concerned, if they are having cutting edge technology related to AI, which might be of use to deploy, for example, drones. So, if you know drones, drones are now being deployed in a major way in various wars. For example, right now the Russia-Ukraine war, the Gaza war. I don't know if you would have seen Yahya Sinwar. Yahya Sinwar's last televised video where a drone was sent in first to, I don't know whether you know Yahya Sinwar. He was one of the most sought after people among the Hamas and one of the last major Hamas leader was executed. And he was executed in a drone strike. So if you would have seen that video, that drone is going inside a building and it is showing a footage of a person sitting in a couch and that person is waiting for the drone to come nearby and with the left hand the right hand seem to be damaged of that person. uh, the leg seems to have been damaged. He has had tried, the face was covered, with the left hand he tried to throw a stick at the drone. Okay, and the drone was not damaged. And the next thing was it did a strike to the whole building and the building collapsed and Yahya Sinwar passed away. So drone is being deployed in a major way in various conflicts. What is the advantage of that? Human life, as far as without human intervention, drones can be deployed electronically and people can watch from a very safe distance and ensure that the drone goes and does the destruction above without, for example, in this case, Israeli lives being thrown away. But then there is a lot of other lives, like Palestinian lives, civilian life could be, there could be civilian casualty. All these things are dangers. So therefore, if you look at each of these cases, there is some danger in some of these technologies getting into the wrong hands. Okay, so you can expect that any time. So see, for example, if you look at nuclear technology, any technology for that matter, always there is a danger. What if there is a new technology being developed? If it falls into the wrong hands, there is a possibility of it being misused. For example, you would very well know about how US and the world sanctions have been done against Iran. That is to stop them developing a full-fledged nuclear arsenal, right? But then there are countries which have nuclear capability. For example, Pakistan has nuclear capability, India has nuclear capability. Israel has never denied nor have they said that they have nuclear capability. US has, many of the European countries have. But Pakistan being a, in a way, ally, Islamic ally to Iran, has many times it has helped Iran with some of the technologies to develop their nuclear technology. So, like nuclear technology, like it is seen as a threat to the existence of many countries, some of these technologies can also be perceived and as a threat, especially if it falls into the wrong hands. It's very much a threat. That is why in the Paris summit, they wanted to have some safeguards that countries will sign some of these documents to ensure that there will be safe use of AI. But uh, one pertinent point is that countries like US didn't sign it, UK didn't sign it, China was not even present officially for that summit. So in a way, it is necessary that some of these safeguards are there in place. There are dangers associated with it, but then there are players, countries out there, and many of them who are in the forefront may play it out. They will not reveal their hand. It's like a almost like a board game. Right now, they will not reveal their hand. They will see how they will ensure that things play out to their advantage. I don't know whether you might have seen the Zelensky Trump exchange that happened. Did you see that? The Ukrainian
Mhm.
president had visited White House, and in the Oval Office, they had a discussion, and there was a falling out. There was a argument in front of the press that happened. I'm just talking about one day, 2 days back. So between J.D. Vance, Trump, and J.D. Vance is the vice president of U.S. Trump is the president of U.S. and Ukraine's president. It is a major. You have to see that video to believe it. So it is something unprecedented that is being watched live on television. So what you see there is some of the games that happen, or some of the games that are played by between countries. So there are negotiations made. There is so between behind war there are so many other things. There are arms businesses there. If you look at US, it is one of the major arms traders. So for example, India uses the F1 fighters from US. Pakistan also is a customer. So you have both India and our seemingly opponent Pakistan, both being supplied by the same F-16 and other fighters by US. Okay, so there are bigger games and other players in the geopolitical scenarios. So these things will be played out depending on how things are in the geopolitical scenario across the world. So we can't predict some of these things. These things will evolve as things and days go by.
Okay, so you just told me about the incident of the Hamas leader where
Mm.
a drone went close to him and he threw a stick, and the AI or the drone basically reacted to it and went berserk, isn't it? So, what if that happens in the future and the AI that is programmed in a drone or any other weapons, what if they backfire us? What if
Okay.
they go? What if they won't be in our control?
Yeah. So in the case of the Yahweh's Sinwar's case, Yahya Sinwar. In Sinwar's case, actually, the drone didn't malfunction. It functioned in the way that the Israelis wanted. But recently, there was a case. If you search for it, there was a humanoid android that was deployed in China, which attacked the crowd. Okay, you can search about it. It happened very recently. Okay, and there's a clip in the Chinese social media. So what happened was there was as I told you, in China, in Japan, these are the places where robots, many of them are in the human forms, are deployed to help some of these things. And one of those robots actually malfunctioned and attacked the humans. You can see it is attacking, and then people are trying to switch it off, and they were able to control it and all. Very much a possibility. In fact, this is the possibility based on which some of the Hollywood movies like Terminator or Matrix, some of these are made based on this premise that the human, the artificial intelligence that is driving some of these machines can go berserk, and it can in fact attack humans, and then they have taken it to the other extreme, where in this case it is a malfunctioning in a very simple or a very isolated case. But what they have portrayed is it happening as a pattern and AI taking over. So we are very far from such a scenario being played out. What scientists say is that at least in the next 100 years that won't happen, where AI is going to take over humans, or that to that extent, because it has not developed. See, for example, there are some things which are very easy for an AI to do. For example, like calculation. But then an emotion, okay, is something very simple for a person, but it is extremely difficult for AI to mimic, because there are so many complex aspects to it which we don't realize. We being humans, we are programmed. For example, we are sitting like this, we are able to smile. There are so many hormones working. Then our heartbeat is going to is if see if you would have noticed about chess nowadays, what happens is, while the chess, I don't know whether you would have noticed, Hikaru had mentioned about Gukesh and Magnus Carlsen. Both of their heart rates, even during very tense matches, have not changed much. So even in very tense moments, their heart rate doesn't. That means they are very mentally tough. Okay, so humans are very complex machines. So AI could do a calculation at a very higher level than a human. But then there are so many other things about the humanness which is very difficult for any AI to accomplish that easily. Okay, so there is this possibility of some of these things happening at a local stage, but right now we are not yet in the stage where some of these things can become very dangerous for humanity. But there is a possibility, and that is why, especially in Europe, there is a lot of call by the country leaders, especially Macron, who had called for those that summit. He had mentioned about how we have to ensure that AI will not pose a threat to humanity. We have to take the steps right now to ensure that it doesn't happen in the future. So there is always a possibility, and that is why they have said that we have to do something now. Right now, we have to lay the foundations to ensure that it doesn't happen in the future. So there is a possibility.
Okay, okay. That's a very satisfying answer. So you're telling me that AI will work as we use it. If we use it for evil work, it will backfire us, and if we use it in a good way, it will be a friend, right?
Correct. Right.
Okay. So my next question is: can we use AI for certain fields like medical and or space explorations?
Some of these things already um, the AI is being deployed. Okay, so it is not just AI. See, for example, for developing, let us look at medicine. You talked about medicine. The cost of developing a new molecule, okay, for medicine is close to was close to 1 billion US dollar. Okay, 1 billion US dollar. This is a very prohibitive cost. That is why in India you will not find that most of the Indian companies pharmaceutical companies, they are into generic drug manufacturing. What is generic drug manufacturing? Generic drug manufacturing means that molecule has already been discovered very many years back, and then once that discovery is done, once that patent is being taken, and after many years, the same composition is replicated in a new name. So this is called generic drugs. Okay. So the name of the medicine might be different. It might be manufactured by a different company, but the composition of the medicine is the same. So generic drug manufacturers, Indian companies are mostly generic drug manufacturers. So the molecule has been discovered many years back by a company which has invested a lot of money, but then they have reaped the benefits, and then you take that, you get that, the you take the manufacturing rights from those people, pay them some money, and then you make generic drugs, which, but then you will have your own brand name, but the composition will remain the same. So, for example, we have the AIDS medicine is called antiretroviral drugs. So, if you look at the US, the Cipla is the company which supplies right now the dosages for that is AIDS virus, for AIDS treatment across the world, especially in Africa and all. It is Cipla which is supplying. If you look at the cost of it, right now it is around less than $10. While a European company earlier was manufacturing it, the same $10 medicine was costing, for the same dosage, was costing around $250. From $250, Cipla was able to bring down the cost to just $10. Why? Because they are only manufacturing, doing a generic drug manufacturing. They're not inventing a new molecule. A lot of the cost is going to the R&D. That is called research and development. The molecule development cost, the $1 billion I told you, that is a sunk cost. That goes into research and development. Once a company does all that R&D, invests that $1 billion, develops that drug, it is much easy for people to get into contract manufacturing, get that rights to make a generic drug and replicate it. So, like this, what is happening is that uh, in deploying AI, what they are able to do is that they are able to test medicines. See, for example, any medicine has to be tested. You would have seen that this in some of the medicines it has written, it has been tested in animals. Okay, lab rats. In some cases, it would be tested in humans also. Okay, but there are a lot of restrictions connected to this, and then there has to be specific permits that companies need to get whenever human testing is done. Now, what they are doing is that they are creating a virtual human, and in that virtual human, some of these medicines can be tested. Okay, and then you will be able to know the result of the that test in a much faster way. See, for example, earlier when you were actually doing it on a physical person, you'll have to do it on some 1,000 people from various geographies, and then you'll have to keep doing the test, and you'll have to monitor how the medicine is working on them on a real time basis. But now you can almost do it everything virtually. Virtually, you are able to, this virtual person, you are able to, so many people, virtual persons you are able to create, and virtually you can see what is the result of administering your trial drug on that person. So what's happening is that they are able to turn around the medicine much faster. So already in the field of medicine, in some of these fields, they are deploying AI. But then there are, right now, many of the countries are not even aware of the safety hazards related to using AI in some of these fields. So that is one drawback. So people are, there are many countries who are not even aware of it. Okay, but then this is being used in some places. So it can be done, but there are safety hazards.
Okay, so my next question is, can AI solve global issues like climatic change and global warmings?
See, global warming is caused by the emission of fuels. Okay, so global emissions is the reason for global warming. So what we have been trying to do is for a very long time we have been so there is something called the Kyoto Protocol. Kyoto is a place in Japan, and that protocol was signed in that place in Japan, where countries had agreed to bring down the emission levels to a particular stage. This is to bring down global warming. But then what happened was that many countries had withdrawn themselves from some of those agreements. Why? Because they found that see, if they have to bring down their global warming rates, they might have to use green energy. For example, they'll have to deploy more of electrical energy. They'll have to look at more CNG, those kind of uses, which doesn't contribute so much to the greenhouse gases. Uh, but to some countries, it is more costly to have options which doesn't involve the natural the fuels that we use. If they don't use petrol, they don't use diesel, it is going to be more costly for them because they have to spend more R&D, more energy, more effort in developing some of these technologies. For example, if you look at cars being run by battery, it is lithium ion battery. But for that, there has to be costs incurred. For example, right now we have subsidies in place. And because of the subsidies, government subsidies, um, government is cross subsidizing some of the electric cars. That is why we are able to afford it. In the same way, in some of the advanced countries, governments cross subsidize. That is to incentivize usage of some of these clean energies. But there are countries in which governments are not able to do that. Government is not able to subsidize use of clean energy. But what is happening is that these kind of greenhouse emissions, they are not being curbed, not being. So what happens is that right now, if you look at it, there is a artificial border that we have created between what you go from Kerala. There is a border that you have in mind. Kerala looks like this in the map, and then there is an artificial border in which you get into Karnataka, you get into Tamil Nadu, you get into Andhra, and then you go up, and then there is a Delhi, there is a UP. So this, if you go up to the skies, to the space and look, you don't see these lines. So actually, these are artificial lines drawn by politicians to define countries, right? But what happens is that in the atmosphere, there is no such lines. So the emission that goes up from Delhi, it will have an impact on environment somewhere else across the world, right? So that is why that is a danger. Okay, so the for example, even if you look at ocean pollution, suppose there is a ocean liner, and there is a so you will find that the majority of the oil is transported through ocean liners, right? And if there is a disaster that happens there, what happens? There will be a great oil spillage into the oceans, but it is not going to impact only one country. There can be that oil can go to any place, and wherever the produce of that, there will be marine animals that are affected, and similarly, atmosphere, it is even more dangerous. Atmosphere can go anywhere. It is not so a emission that goes from Delhi is not just going to affect the people of Delhi. It can go anywhere. It can affect people, weather. It can affect so many other things anywhere. So these things can have a great impact at any kind of location. Similarly, in such case also you will find that the impact uh, can be worldwide. So therefore, you will find that greenhouse and all these cases, uh, there is a limit to which AI can be deployed to limit some of these things, because finally you'll have to curb what carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide, all these things. That can be done by only reducing the usage of fossil fuels. So, to some extent, it can be done, but not to a great extent. You have to actually reduce the use of fossil fuels to have an impact on the greenhouse gases.
Okay, so my next question is, will AI ever surpass human intelligence? Or let me rephrase the question. Uh, what if AI gains consciousness?
Yeah, this is a question that people have been asking for a very long time. It
Yes.
started with computers. See, people might not know the word AI was coined way back in 1950s. So it's not something new. So we are talking about 75 years back, right? Artificial intelligence, the word was coined 75 years back. Okay. So this question whether conscience, whether so y- I don't know whether you know, Deep Blue was the first machine that was a supercomputer developed by IBM that was able to beat a chess grandmaster. Okay, so you would have heard about Gary Kasparov and Deep Blue fighting a chess game. For example, the last day, our Magnus Carlsen was saying that he might not be able to uh, um, beat chess engines. So what happens is that now there is, like AI can be like AI, there are chess engines which has been fed all the kind of games, all moves done in the past across the world by different people have been fed into that engine, so that that machine knows all the moves. It can calculate so many moves, like our brain. For example, Magnus Carlsen, like his brain is able to calculate so many moves, and he considers so many moves in so many seconds, and then he mixes in. And then Gukesh has to outmaneuver him. For that, he'll have to calculate so many moves. Think about all these things being fed into a machine, and the machine being if it is very powerful, if its CPUs and GPUs are very powerful, it is able to do much more calculation. It is able to do, it is able to consider so many more moves, and it has a huge database of all the games that have been played in the past. So that is why Magnus Carlsen said that it will be very difficult for anyone to beat a an HS engine going forward. The way these things are being deployed. So the For a very long time, this question has been asked about computers. When is computer going to gain consciousness? So computers have been there for a very long time. Supercomputers have been there for a very long time, but till now they have not developed conscience. So what the scientists are able to predict is that in around 100 years time, they don't see in the next 100 years any computer or any artificial intelligence developing a conscience. So they are saying for the 100 years, next 100 years, you are safe. That is what they are saying. But there are people who believe that even now there is a possibility that in some lab somewhere there is already a conscience, a artificial intelligence with conscience which is already ready. There are people who say that. But then in the mainstream, there is no scientist that has said that as of now. So what they say is that the conservative estimate is 100 years. The non-conservative estimate could be maybe 15 years, maybe 20 years, maybe even 5 years.
Okay, so till now, those are the some advantages and disadvantages of artificial intelligence. So we have seen a lot of disadvantages, a lot of traits. What can be the biggest risks of AI in the coming next decade, and what are the things that we can do to prevent it?
See, as far as India is concerned, actually more than the risk, it is actually an advantage. But as far as some of the other countries are concerned, for example, Europe, uh, for Europe, there is actually some of these things is more of a threat. I'll tell you why. Um, if you look at India, India has a very vibrant youth population. So we have surpassed, you would know that we had surpassed China. We are the world's most populous country right now. So then we have one of the maximum youth populations in the world. Third, we are having some of the best technical manpower in the world. Some of the best technical manpower in the world. We are fourth. We are a democracy. Fifth, we have the advantage of using English. So if you look at majority of the technical stuff out there, the language that is used is what? English. So if you look at China versus India, China also has what? A lot of people. So it has human resources, but it doesn't have what? It doesn't have democracy. It doesn't have as much of penetration of English language. Why do we have English language? So much of penetration of English language. The reason is because of the Britishers. The British, suppose instead of British, if the French had colonized India, for example, we had French colonies. For example, Pondicherry is one of that, and then we had some other pockets. We had some pockets of Portuguese colonies, but then majorly India has been a British colony. That is why there has been a lot of emphasis on English education. But if you look at countries where French have taken over across the world, you will find that the second language, majority of them use French and then only English, maybe. Okay. And then their own language. But here in India, the universal language, for example, you go, the national languages, though, is Hindi. And then there are regions which all the regions which have their own languages. The language that binds all of us and the business language, if you look at it, is English. All the business channels are in English. You look at the stock market, everything. But then that is not the case with a lot of countries across the world. So India has a lot of advantages and technical manpower. It is very much India's technical prowess, especially in the world of IT, is proven. You look at major IT companies. You look at Google. Sundar Pichai, he's an IIT Kharagpur alumnus. Sundar Pichai is the head of Google. He's an Indian. You look at Microsoft. Microsoft is, who is Satya Nadella. Satya Nadella is from MIT. MIT is Manipal Institute of Technology. He's a BTech from there. You look at right now, even in AI, after OpenAI, one of the biggest companies is called Perplexity AI. Okay, Perplexity AI is UK based. It is headed by an Indian. You might have heard of when Twitter was being taken over by Musk, and Agarwal was the guy who was heading Twitter. Okay, you might have heard about Agarwal at that time. So you will find that Indian engineers are world over heading so many companies, and the technical prowess of Indians are proven fact. So India, as far as India is concerned, we are at an advantage. If AI or some of these technologies take off, we are at an advantage because we are in a position to make use of some of these opportunities. Whereas countries which are averse to education, you look at even in US, if you look at it, uh, all the post graduation studies, all the doctoral students, majority of them are not people who are born and brought up in US. Majority of them are people, very bright students who come from across the world and have come in scholarships. Many of them are Indians and Chinese who have gone to US, studied there, gone on a scholarship. They have studied, and many of the, you look at MS, Master of Science program. in majority of programs in if you look at MIT, if you look at Sloan School, if you look at many of these schools like Carnegie Mellon, even Cornell University, many of these places, there are Indians and Chinese who are at, and they are doing extremely well. They are doing extremely well in the course. So Indians come there with scholarship, and they have to pay some extra money. Many of the Americans are who are born and brought up there. They have so much support from the government. They might not even have to pay the fees, but still the Indians who have paid the extra money, who have come all the way from India and many other places, are doing extremely well. While in the studies, they become toppers, and then they go on to get the best jobs out there, and then they get trained. And these Indians are then, many of them are coming back to India, and then they are using some of these learnings to advance Indian companies. They're coming here and they're starting Indian companies. Entrepreneurship, you might have heard about entrepreneurship. uh, Bangalore, the place that I am in, is called the IT capital of India. We have so many companies, startup companies that come up on a daily basis. You would have heard of Byju's, who is now under doldrums. But then you look at the Swiggy, you look at Zomato. There's so many unicorns that have come from Bangalore. And you look at Flipkart. Flipkart was say a website to get books. Now it's been bought by Walmart, and then it is apart from Amazon, it is the second biggest online platform from where you can buy things in India. So India is an advantage. It is at an advantage if AI revolution or some of these technical things take off. Whenever it takes off, Indians and India is at an advantage. We will have an edge over many other countries. Therefore, my advice would be, see, in the first session that we had about AI, I had displayed a saying, or rather a quote by Harvard Business School. What they said is that AI will not replace humans, but humans with AI knowledge will replace humans without AI knowledge. So this might not happen now, right now. It might not happen everywhere. But for example, right now in Bangalore, the IT capital of India, it is going to happen in the coming 1 2 years or 3 years. But it might, the place where Kiran is right now sitting, UP, it might not happen in the next 10 years or maybe in the next 20 years. We never know. But it is certainly going to happen here. And what we have to do is we have to embrace this change. Okay, companies are going to embrace this change. Why? Because they have to increase their efficiency. They have to prove their they have to bring something to the market. The stock market is unforgiving, and any company that is listed, every term they have to, every quarter to quarter they have to prove that they have done better than the last quarter. This was our prediction. See, every quarter, any listed company, what they have to do, they have to come out with their results. This was our last quarter's results. This was what was predicted. We did so much percentage better than our prediction. We were able to give so much for our investors. And next quarter, this is going to be the prediction. If they have met their predictions, what will happen? Immediately, the stock values will go high. There is something called market capitalization will go high of that company. It will be a more sought after company. Instead, right now, if you look at Byju's, they have gone down to them. You look at the valuation, how the valuation of Byju's have gone down, by how much percentage it has gone down. So it is a huge risk for some of these companies that they are in the stock market, and companies don't have an option. They have to adopt wherever there is a new technology that is coming, wherever there is going to be a competitive advantage, they have to embrace it. So you can be assured that companies are going to adopt AI en masse. Okay. You don't know, we are not able to predict right now what is the scale at which they are going to do, whether government will impose any restrictions because of the implications on the jobs. We don't know about it. But it is for a sure that companies are going to make use of AI, and therefore people without some of these skills might find suddenly, for example, 20 years back, when people who were not willing to adopt to use of computers, some of them had to leave their jobs. They had to take voluntary retirement. Similar cases could happen in the coming days. We'll have to see how it plays out.
Okay.
Kiran, I think
So
we have crossed 1 hour, so
yeah. Okay. So we can
we'll
conclude
have to
this.
wind up. So, if are there any pressing questions?
No,
Otherwise, we
we have already answered every questions. So in this session, we have learned what is AI and what it can do, what are the advantages and disadvantages. And we learned that AI is a machine which, if used properly, it can stand at the pinnacle of the modern evolution. So I would like to hand over to Mr. Juton Verghese for the conclusion. So please give it a little bit of summary and the conclusion of AI, and we can end it.
okay. Now, I would like to give the spiritual angle to it. See, the thing is that uh, we have to keep in mind that unlike some of the other channels or some of the other people, we are believers. There is one difference that we have. So we have to remember one thing, that what does believers believe? Believers believe what is given in the Word of God. What does the Word of God says? That God will work out anything and everything for the good of those who love Him. Okay. തന്നിൽ വിശ്വസിക്കുന്നവർക്ക് വേണ്ടി അവൻ സകലവും നന്മയ്ക്കായി കൂടി വ്യാപരിപ്പിക്കും. He will work out everything for the good. So that is something that we have to believe. Hmm? See, the Word of God was written, if you look at the New Testament, was written 2000 years back. But it is relevant. See, there is a verse which says, Jesus Christ is the same yesterday, today, and forever. Okay. So when God wrote this, He had foreseen the advent of computers or AI or anything. So we have to believe that Jesus, God, the Father, Son, Holy Ghost, Trinity, they have seen the past, they have seen the present, they have seen the future. God has gone into our future and He has worked things out for our good already. That is something, that is a hope. That is something that we have, which the world doesn't have. See, many times what happens is that the world will look at some of these things and it will get perplexed, because it doesn't rely on a God who is in control of everything. We believe in a God who is in control of our past, our present, and our future. So that is why, if you look at the words of Jesus, what does He say? In Matthew chapter 28, verse 19, what He says is, He tells to His disciples, and not just to His disciples, though it is the Great Commission, it is not just to Him, to them at that time. It is even resounding to us who are there, as if we are there in front of Jesus, and Jesus is telling the same words to us. Go into all the world and preach the good news to all creation, and baptizing, teaching them what I have taught, and baptizing them in the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Ghost. And behold, I will be with you till the end of time. So that thing, that I will be with you till the end of time, end of time hasn't come. So even now, that promise holds good till the end of time, till the end of days, till the end of end of the time and the start of eternity. That promise of Jesus, that He will be with us, and He has gone ahead of us and has prepared a way, is that promise that we have is the most reassuring thing that we can have, that the world doesn't have. That is the difference between a believer and an unbeliever. That God, who created the universe and had set things in motion and had seen us in His mind in eternity and brought us to pass. For example, Acts chapter 17, Paul says that God saw us in from the time of Adam. He decided at what times will we be created and put on which which places on the earth. So God, in His divine wisdom, in His foreknowledge, He had decided about Kiran being born in so and so year in UP or wherever, and the places where he'll be studying, and his life, what all places he will go, everything was in his plan. So David says, Lord, you have seen every day of mine is in thy book. So God has written every day, our past, our present, our future is already seen, has already been in verified and already been secured by the Lord. So that is, and he has already promised that he will work it out for our good. Why? Because we love him. That is the condition. We shouldn't remember, we shouldn't forget that that condition is there. That is why that verse will not hold for an unbeliever, because the unbeliever might not believe in, or doesn't believe that verse. That verse says, for all who love him. We love the Lord, and the Lord loves us, and He has gone into our future, and He has prepared a good future for us. That's why it says in Jeremiah that I have prepared a good future for us, for you. That is the hope that we have. There is a precious hope that which the world doesn't have. The world, when it looks at some of these things, it is perplexed. It doesn't know. The people of the world doesn't know what to do, because they don't know what is the next day. But then, if you look at Revelation, we know exactly what is going to happen. What does it say? It says, before the tribulation happens, the church is going to be translated. In the blinking of an eye, Paul says, we will be transformed, and those who are dead in Christ will be risen, and those who are alive will be caught up with the Lord in the heavens. This is what we believe, right? So our future is secured in the Lord. Whatever happens, we can be assured that the Lord will take care of us. With that assurance, we have to realize that that is a very precious assurance which the world doesn't have. The world is looking at all these things, and for them, it is darkness. But what does the world say? For when it is darkness for them, there is a light that is already risen for us. Needi Surya, Aya Christu. Christ, who is the Son of righteousness, has already risen for us. That's the difference between us and the world. And it is with that joy, that assurance, that I want to leave you from today's session. We are not a people who are unprepared. We have been prepared by the Lord for any eventuality, because the Lord has seen the future, and He has already prepared what is needed tomorrow. That's why the Lord has said in this word, do not worry about tomorrow, because tomorrow worries about itself. Worry just about today. And your Lord, the God, has provided, just as he has provided for the small lily of the valley. You of little faith, will the Lord not provide for you? So don't worry about the future, for the future will worry about itself. As far as a believer, child of God is concerned, the Lord takes care of his future. So that is what I would like to leave you with. So though this was a session on technology and AI, I want to leave you with a message of hope. You have hope because you have Christ. You are a believer. That's the difference between you and the world. So as a believer, you don't have to worry about anything. You don't have to worry about this AI or anything. That is, nothing is going to affect you, because the Lord has secured your future.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for the wonderful session, and thank you so much for joining us today. So, with this, I would like to end this session. Thank you.
So before that, I just would. So Kiran is Saju's son, and I was glad that he could also. So maybe we would be seeing more of you in leading some of the other sessions. Is this your first session in Gospel TV UP?
It's this is my second session,
Okay,
second
which was the
class.
first one? Which was the
Sir,
first one? Which was the
The
first one?
yesterday. The
Okay,
yesterday's.
so you have started just yesterday. So
Yes,
we will
sir.
see many more. So both of it was connected to technology, and you have done a very good job. So I think you
Thank
are
you.
slightly more comfortable in English, and that's why you had preferred the session to be in English, right?
Yes, sir. For
So
me,
we can
Malayalam is
look
a little
forward
hard.
to yeah. So we can look forward to some sessions in English also coming in the next few days. Okay,
Sure,
thank you
sure.
so much,
Thank
Kiran.
you,
Best
sir.
of luck to you. Okay,
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
yeah,
Have a nice day.
bye.